Pat Chun, kind enough to join us. How you doing, sir?
Just learned Jason was one of the great point guards at University of Puget Sound history. I'm learning as we go. I did not expect to get thrown into a little bit of Northwest history
that's
here.
co-ed intramural.
There we go. It's all the same, Swag. It's all the same.
I had visions of him and Terry Porter kind of being the same player, but I guess maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Look at that. Bringing it back around. Wisconsin Stevens Point legend here in Portland, Terry Porter. Pat, look, this has been a whirlwind for you. 4 months on the job at the University of Washington, almost to the day. I believe it was the 27th of March was your first day on the gig. Now you're almost 4 months in. What has it been like, this transition where you go from Washington State over to UW and take over this transition into the Big Ten, where you have a lot of familiarity with the conference?
Yeah, like today's probably the day that feels most comfortable, just being back in the Big Ten and seeing a lot of veteran reporters that were in and around Ohio State when I was there, and seeing all these brands and some old faces. But it has been a very, very seamless transition for me and my family. The nice thing for us is we made lifelong friends that are Cougs, that are in Seattle. Also, as you guys know, in the Northwest, Seattle is kind of the epicenter of the state, even though it's west. So, my girls have had friends in town for, concerts and volleyball tournaments and soccer tournaments. So it's the easiest place for our family to have moved. And for the athletic department, it's I come in at a pretty unique time. It's we've had turnover with 3 ADs, 2 football coaches, 2 basketball coaches. But I remind the staff, it's we made it to, this is also an athletic department that won the Pac-12 in football. I'm quick to remind people here that today there's 2 defending conference champions here today at this media day. We just happen to be the one of the conference that is not what it used to be. And, we won back-to-back men's track and field championships in the Pac-12 and a national championship in men's rowing, record fundraising, record academics. So if that's a rough year for Washington, sign me up, because we'll do this. Other than the turnover in ADs, let's sign me up for this every year. So it's been good, and it's living in the state for 6 years. Obviously, it's Seattle is I've been there plenty of times. So and the team's been very welcoming, and getting to know our coaches. I think it's been nice to kind of start at the same time as Jed Fish and Danny Sprinkle, our new men's basketball coach, because all of us are trying to learn this place together, and all of us know what the standard is. And at places like Washington, where there's so much history, that we recognize if we can just add 1 or 2 more chapters to that history, then then we've actually impacted the place.
Well, speaking of history, you obviously have history at Ohio State, or the Ohio State University. And what is it like to kind of be a part of that, kind of coming full circle back to your roots to an extent?
Well, it's the oddity that I grew up in Big Ten country, and now I live in Big Ten country again, which is Seattle. So for an athletic director, it's just it's good to it's good to be with athletic directors that you kind of grew up in the industry with, but it's also great to be with Rob Mullins and Jen Cohen and Martin Jarman again in a room. So it's just there's just someone asked me a question right when I took the job and asked me, how long is it going to take for Washington to be a Big Ten school? And I told him, it's like you take one walk on our campus on Montlake, and you see the historic buildings, and you know what our rankings are, nationally and globally as an institution, and what we do in research annually, and the med school and its impact, and a big athletic department. I said, this is actually a Big Ten school, and for us going forward with our 3 former Pac-12 colleagues. We have more in common with the schools in the Big Ten than a lot of the schools that we used to be members with in the Pac-12. So it's it's where we're at. It's where college football is at 2024. I'm glad we're in the Big Ten. This thing has changed so much in recent years that you have to be in the Big Ten and you have to be in the SEC if you're going to claim to compete at the highest levels. And we're appreciative that we're at the highest level of college football and college sports.
Pat Chun is our guest, the athletic director at the University of Washington from Big Ten Media Days in Indianapolis. Jonathan Smith made the move from Oregon State to Michigan State, and he was asked these questions as well. It's hard. It's got to be hard for you to go just across the state from Washington State to Washington, knowing kind of the situation that Oregon State and Washington State are in with the Pac-2. You know the footprint of Coug fans here in Vancouver with the Washington State campus down here. What has this transition been like for you as leaving Washington State in the situation that they're in, where they're looking for that new home, and how hard was that for you to leave Pullman and go over to Seattle?
Well, we poured our heart and souls into that endeavor for as long as we did it. But the reality for us is, Kirk Schultz is as good of a person and boss you could work for. To his credit, he was very transparent in the fall of what his timeline was to announce his retirement, and that there's no forever jobs in this industry, and the reality is an athletic director is tied to his or her president. And that in itself, me and my wife were talking about what's next for us. For us, it's where got us to really think what's going to be the next step in our careers. And then just as this thing was evolving at the same time, it was clear that if we wanted to end up in the Big Ten, and oddly enough, as fate would have it, if I tell people, if you told me a year ago we'd be in Seattle, I'd say, what the heck are you talking about? But it's just, it's the way the world works. And, my wife reminds me we're clearly meant to be here. But, it's like, I take great pride in what we've been able to do at Washington State. I think we're fortunate that staying in Seattle, we made lifelong friends at our Cougs, so we can stay connected with them. And that's been fantastic. That has made the transition easy. I get it. At the Cougs and the Beavs, the fan bases are extraordinarily passionate, and I totally respect and understand the passion for someone to shift over, but it's a different day. I mean, it's two schools, at least in Washington. There are different conferences, and at least and my friends know this at our Cougs, is there's not going to be a moment in any circle that I'm in that I'm not going to advocate and support the Cougs. It's other than when we're playing them, that's going to be the only time I'm not going to be supporting them.
You talked about how it's just been a whirlwind through these last couple months. A bit of a unique situation in that your head coach of the football team was hired before you, and that's a little bit unique in that typically an AD's in place and is kind of helping lead that search. What are the unique challenges and opportunities of kind of having you both come in at the same time, but having him get there before you?
I think that what has helped myself, and then with not only with Jed but with Danny Sprinkle as well, is Troy Dannon, who's a friend, wasn't here that long either once he hired them. So it's not like they had deep relationships. It's not like, it's not like Jen Cohen and Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah.
Like, she hired them. They were here for a couple of years. So they were still, both coaches were still getting to know Washington, still getting to know Troy, and then I come in. So, if anything, we're all starting anew. So I think that has been a nice bind between the three of us. And they didn't come here. They all came. They came here to do something exceptional. They came here because they believe that Washington is going to be, a huge step in their personal and professional goals, and they feel like they can affect young people, through what we can provide here at Washington. So, it's just, the nice thing is when you sit and talk to them, you can see why they were hired. That they're the perfect people at the right time for Washington. And, it's my job and our team's job in athletics to provide an environment that maximizes their performance, their teams, and allows them to develop their young people at the highest levels.
So as this transition for the four West Coast schools into the Big Ten, you worked for 15 years at Ohio State and in the athletic department. What do the fan bases need to get ready for as they transition to heading to the Midwest and Big Ten country, and what can they look forward to with you having the intimate knowledge of the Big Ten as you do?
The environments. Well, one, this is just a biased Big Ten take, but my I think the line of I think one, college football is consolidating into these two conferences. I believe the line of scrimmage play is going to be very different in this league across the board, across the conference schedule, than it would have been in the Pac-12. So I think you just take into account how we're going to look, and the physicality is going to be just a hair different. But I think the environments are all unique, and one of our road games this year is going to be the whiteout at Penn State. I've been a part of those. I think it's why young people sign up to play college football at places like Washington, because you want to play on the biggest stages in the unique environments around college football, and that whiteout's one of them. So as you go around the country, I think the I think the two schools specifically in the Pacific Northwest will see very, very similar fan bases with the same type of love and commitment for their institutions, long-time traditions relative to those institutions as well. Environments that you see when Washington and Oregon strap it up, I think, are environments that you'll see in other environments. So I think, like I said, the fit for Washington, but I believe especially for the two Pacific Northwest schools, it's really a northern climate conference. Now the two schools won't get the snow that the rest of the conference gets, but it's at least I know both schools, and specific for Washington though, like our climate does allow us to at least be prepared for what Big Ten Novembers will bring to us.
With all of the chaos in college football, what is the next thing that as athletic directors and presidents of these universities that you guys are collectively coming forward to tackle next?
Well, we'll have a new model here once if this settlement with the House case gets approved by Judge Wilkin. We'll be in this revenue share environment, and then every campus will have will have their own math equation on how they're going to fund it. If you're in the Big Ten, if you're Washington, I've reminded everyone, the University of Washington has provided the highest level of benefits and services to student athletes in the past, present, and in the future. So we'll have to figure out what that looks like, and recruiting never stops. So we'll have to make some. We're going to have to sketch out what we're going to look like, because there's only so much pre-planning you can do when everything is theoretical. But once that thing gets signed, we'll have to go figure out how to find new revenue streams, which I believe there are opportunities, which I know there are opportunities for us at Washington, and then just what our business model looks like, knowing that player acquisition changes, recruiting changes, because there's a revenue share component to it, and we're it's long overdue in college athletics, and we'll figure out how to make sure that we're positioned best possibly for Washington.
When that split eventually happens and it is a new world, what is going to change the most in your job, and what are you trying to figure out is going to be that moving target of the role of the athletic director? Or will it change much at all?
No. Well, I think it's an evolving role. I think the things that you do now, it's like I tell everyone the things, I look at my friend Scott Barnes down in Corvallis, the things he's had to do, for the last year are things, he was, me and him were more co-conference commissioners for a part of this last year than we're athletic directors. So, but that's just part of the job. You always have to adapt to what's best for your institution and your young people. And, we'll do the same thing. Things are changing. The velocity of change is still at the highest it's been. This rev share piece will still continue more change, but there's going to be more data that's going to have to come out of this, and we'll keep adjusting and adapting. But this isn't an industry. Just how we're structured, it just the only way we can ever have any level of stability if we get congressional help, and obviously that hasn't happened for a reason. And so we're going to have to always kind of adapt to change as market forces pull college athletics, the legal system pulls college athletics. At least this case provides some level of certainty for at least a window. How long that window is probably as long as the next lawsuit comes in.
Well, geez, if anything else, if you ever look for a career change, you can be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company after this now.
It's not one. I'm too shallow. I like sports too much. I like feeling like I know the players and the coaches, and I have a little bit of insight, so I'm too shallow of a person to do that.
I love it. This has been a great conversation, Pat. We really appreciate you taking a few minutes for us down here in Portland, and good luck to you and the Huskies this season and moving forward in the new world of the Big Ten. We should do this again sometime soon.
All right, thank you. Go Dogs.
There it is. Pat Chun, the athletic director at the University of Washington. You can see exactly why he was so great at Florida Atlantic, where he hired Lane Kiffin. Yep. He went to Washington State and kind of ushered them into a new era. And then now he heads over to the University of Washington, where, look, this is not easy for Coug fans. No. But you heard him just lay out exactly why that move was necessary.
There's things we need to talk about that he said. That there were very specific lines that are the words that he used. I made sure to take note of, because they were very specific and they were very charged in what he was trying to communicate.
Yeah. It's not easy for Coug fans, and just like it wasn't easy for B fans to see Jonathan Smith leave and see him up on the podium for Michigan State. And Bill Oram, who we had on yesterday, had a really good write-up of Jonathan Smith just saying, yeah, there are regrets that I did have in the way that I handled my departure from Oregon State. It doesn't sound like there's any regrets from Pat Chun in the way he handled it, though, because of what he said and how he outlined